Oh, you forgot me? Let me forget you too in escrow. I'm standing at the front door of my own damn house, suitcase in one hand, latte in the other, blinking like I've wandered into the wrong Netflix show. There are folding chairs scattered across my lawn, kids playing tag in my flower beds, and someone's uncle in a barbecue-stained apron is trying to herd people inside like he's the master of ceremonies at the Royal Rudeness Convention. It's a full-blown family reunion. In my house. Correction. In the house I own. The one I inherited. The one I pay property taxes on while my mom and brother play squatters with matching t-shirts and zero shame. I wish I could say this is some kind of bizarre misunderstanding, like maybe I got the date wrong or my flight home landed in a parallel dimension where I don't exist. But no, this is real. And I wasn't invited. Not a call. Not a text. Nada. Cue the dramatic music. Annabel. You're home early, my mother says with a smile so fake it could have been printed at Kinko's. She's standing in the foyer, holding a punch bowl like she's Martha Stewart reincarnated, as if I'm the one crashing the party. Yeah, the merger wrapped ahead of schedule. Funny how time flies when you're actually working. Her smile twitches. We didn't think you'd be interested in a little family gathering. Oh, you mean a gathering of 88 people in my living room? Before she can stammer out a hallmark excuse, my older brother Troy struts in like he owns the place. He's in one of those ridiculous shirts that says, Team Troy, Reunion 2025, and his bald head is shinier than the truth he avoids. Relax, Annabel. It's just family. Didn't think you'd mind. You're always off traveling, doing your corporate thing. Ah yes, doing my corporate thing. AKA earning the six figures that keep the roof over your entitled scalp. Let's pause for a second. Hey, if this kind of petty revenge and jaw-dropping family drama makes you want to grab popcorn, make sure you subscribe to this channel so you never miss another tale of sweet, calculated karma. Trust me, this one's just getting started. Back to our regularly scheduled betrayal. I push past Troy and into the kitchen, where someone's aunt is chopping watermelon on my marble countertops. The same countertops I remodeled last year. The same ones my mother said were too modern for her taste, and yet, here she is, hosting Bridgerton, the bootleg barbecue edition. I don't even know half these people. I mutter as I walk through the sea of relatives. That's Cousin Elsie's third husband's niece. My mom offers helpfully, pointing to a woman in the corner deep-throating a rib. Oh, well, as long as she's family adjacent, I say with a smile so tight it could slice cheese. Let's get one thing straight. I'm not mad they had a party. I'm mad they used my house, didn't ask, didn't tell, and then acted like I was being dramatic for walking into a surprise episode of This Is Why Therapy Exists. You see, after my father passed, the house went to me. Not to my mom. Not to Troy. To me. Legally. Because apparently my dad was the only one who saw how this whole circus would play out. Bless that man. So, I did what any mature, emotionally intelligent woman in my position would do. I took a deep breath, pulled out my phone, and texted my real estate agent. Annabel. List it. Full price. No discounts for freeloaders. 2 days later, I hosted a new gathering of my own, a private house tour with a cash buyer who fell in love with the open floor plan and the built-in bitterness. Now don't get it twisted. I didn't just do it out of spite. Okay, maybe 60% spite. The rest was self-respect. My family had turned my generosity into a given, my space into their playground, and me into a background character in my own story. I don't do background roles. Especially not when I'm the one holding the damn title deed. So while my mom pranced around refilling red Solo cups, and Troy flexed his non-existent career to anyone within earshot, I silently watched the offers roll in. And oh honey, they rolled. That $2.1 million valuation was sweet, but the moment I saw Troy's face when I mentioned escrow, that was priceless. You're what? He choked. Selling. The house. You've got 30 days to find another venue for your delusions. But where will Mom live? I shrugged. Maybe with her third cousin's mechanic's niece. She seemed real cozy on the couch. To be clear, I didn't just kick them out cold. I gave them time, I arranged movers, and I even left them a list of nearby Airbnbs with family-friendly tags. because I'm thoughtful like that. But I also made it crystal clear, this wasn't just about a house. This was about boundaries, and if they couldn't be bothered to include me in their lives, they had no right to live in mine. Literally. You don't get to exclude me and still enjoy my assets. That's not family, that's freeloading informalware. As the closing date approached, my mother tried one last Hail Mary. Annabel, sweetie, maybe we can talk about this? I tilted my head. Now you remember my name? She sighed. It was just one party. No, I said, it was one last party. And then I handed her the keys to the moving van.
Call me petty. Call me dramatic.
Hell, call me the villain if it helps you sleep. But the way I see it, I wasn't cutting ties, I was finally tying the bow on a gift I gave myself. Peace. Next chapter? Let's just say things get juicier when the buyer turns out to be someone my brother seriously shouldn't have crossed. You ever experienced that beautiful, sparkly feeling when karma shows up wearing high heels and lipstick sharper than your aunt's tongue? That's how I felt 3 days after my family reunion eviction party, when my realtor sent me a name I hadn't heard in 8 years. Isabella Dupree. I stared at the message like it was a prank. Then I laughed. Loudly. The kind of laugh that makes your dog leave the room and your neighbors check the window. Not only had Isabella Dupree offered full price on my house without blinking, but she also wanted to close in under 3 weeks.
Cash buyer.
No contingencies. And just for dramatic effect, she attached a note to her offer. Looking forward to hosting my next family reunion here. Some circles just need to be closed.
ID.
Let me give you some glittery backstory on Isabella Dupree. Troy dated her in college. Well, cheated on her in college, to be specific. She was brilliant, composed, and far too good for him, which is probably why he tried to play her like a banjo while juggling 3 side chicks and a GPA that could legally be declared dead. Isabella dumped him, graduated summa cum vengeance, launched a luxury real estate firm in Miami, and by the time she was 30, she was wearing Chanel to Starbucks and buying homes the way normal people buy gum. And now she was buying mine. Correction. Buying the one my family thought belonged to them. Cue Petty Symphony in D minor. Of course, I didn't tell them right away. Where's the sport in that? I let the deal progress quietly. Meanwhile, my mom and Troy still acted like the house sale was some distant bluff. Troy even had the audacity to say, Annabel won't really sell. She's just trying to make a point. Damn, right, I was making a point. One with closing fees and a security deposit. A week later, I strolled into the house for the buyer walkthrough. My mother was sprawled on the sunroom chaise, reading Better Homes and Gardens like she wasn't 2 seconds away from being booted into a 2-bedroom apartment near the freeway. Troy was in the kitchen again. He'd stocked the fridge like he was nesting, like he somehow forgot the part where I listed the house out from under them. So naturally, I smiled and said, make sure those snacks are in resealable bags. Isabella's allergic to dust. Isabella? Mom echoed.
Yep.
She's the buyer. Closings next week. Troy dropped his fork. And now we get to the juicy, gourmet part. Because Isabella didn't just show up for the final inspection.
She sauntered in.
Skin glowing, lips glossy, wearing this blood-red dress that screamed, revenge, but make it fashion. She looked at Troy like he was a bug she forgot to step on years ago. Troy, she said smoothly, still sweating cheap cologne and delusion? Troy turned red. You've got to be kidding me. Oh, I never kid when it comes to property. She winked at me. Annabel, the backsplash is stunning. Classy choice. Thanks, I replied. I picked it just before the last uninvited party. My mother, suddenly realizing she was about to become a guest in someone else's palace, tried to pivot. Oh, well, I'm sure we can work something out. You don't need the whole house, right? I could just stay in the guest wing. Isabella smiled with all 32 teeth. Sorry, no guests. Especially not ones who forget the host. Troy sputtered. This is absurd. No, Isabella corrected. This is real estate. Then she handed me a bouquet. Tulips. My favorite. For the cleanest escrow I've ever closed, she said. And for the best damn poetic justice I've seen in years. God, I could have kissed her. Instead, I handed her the garage remote and turned to my mother and brother. You'll have 1 week. Movers come Friday. If you need boxes, I have some. I labeled them delusions, entitlement, and Mom's secret stash of guilt trips. Was I being a little cruel?
Possibly.
But they had hijacked my house, my space, my legacy, and turned it into a party venue while pretending I was too busy or too corporate to be part of the family. Here's the part they always forget. I'm not mad because I missed a few burgers and speeches. I'm mad because they chose to erase me from something I was literally built into. And you don't get to do that. Not without consequences. As Isabella and I clinked glasses in what used to be my kitchen, I saw it. This wasn't just about real estate. This was a reclamation. Not just of square footage or title deeds, but of dignity. By the time the movers pulled up that Friday, my mom was quiet. Not tearful, just tight-lipped. Troy didn't say a word. He kept looking at Isabella like he wanted to explain, apologize, rewrite history. But honey, history was already recorded, in bold, notarized, and insured. When the truck door slammed shut, I handed them the final letter, a formal no trespassing notice drafted by Isabella's firm. Legal. Binding. Delicious. As they drove away, Isabella turned to me and said, "So, you want to co-host my next reunion?" I was thinking karaoke and silent judgment. I laughed. Only if I get to pick the wine and invite none of my family. You've got a deal. And just like that, my old house became something new. A simple nod of broken trust, but of restored boundaries. Because here's the twist in my little revenge tale. I didn't just win. I leveled up. I reminded them, and myself, that I'm not someone you just leave off the guest list. You exclude me? I evict your comfort zone. And babe, I'll do it with tulips and sarcasm, every time. You'd think after getting booted out of a $2.1 million house by the very daughter they excluded from their makeshift cookout cult, my mother and brother would learn a little humility. Maybe take a crash course in basic human decency. Read a self-help book. Watch Dr. Phil and cry quietly into their Walmart tissue box.
Nope.
Apparently, some people don't get it until the lesson smacks them with a notarized envelope and a foreclosure notice on their backup dream. Let's rewind. 1 week after the sale closed, I moved into my penthouse rental downtown. Temporarily, of course. The house I really wanted was still being built, a mid-century modern stunner with a rooftop garden and a pool shaped like a comma, which felt symbolic. I was enjoying fresh air and peace for the first time in years when I got a call from my cousin Layla. Now Layla's not like the rest of them. She's got a working brain and the common sense to use it. She was also the only person who texted me the day of the reunion to say, "Hey girl, did you know they're having a party at your place? And you're not on the shirt." I picked up her call mid-smoothie sip. "You will not believe what just happened," she said. I grinned. "Try me." Troy tried to crash Aunt Dolores's annual lake weekend. Seriously? With mom in tow. They showed up with potato salad and no invitation. Oh God. How'd that go? Dolores shut the door in their face and said, "If you can leave your daughter out of her own house, you can leave me out of your delusions." Then she slammed it. I nearly choked on kale. "Wait." I coughed. Aunt Dolores said that? The woman who once invited a raccoon to dinner because she thought it was spiritual? The very same. Apparently, word had gotten around about what happened. Layla had shared it in a private family group chat, which, by the way, I was never in. The one titled Team Bloodline, like we were some medieval cult or off-brand reality show. Once the story spread, extended family members started picking sides like it was the season finale of Survivor, Dysfunctional Edition. Team Annabel versus Team. We didn't think she'd mind. Guess which team had the receipts, the title deed, and the moral high ground? The real cherry on top came when my mom called me.
Not to apologize, mind you.
That would have required self-awareness. No, she called to negotiate. "Hi, sweetheart," she said, all sing-songy like she hadn't hosted a human zoo in my living room. "Oh wow," I replied. "A phone call? Do I need to frame this moment?" "Annabel, don't be like that." "Be like what? Homeowner who sells her house out from under freeloaders?" "Yeah, it's a weird phase I'm in." She sighed dramatically. I just think things got out of hand. Maybe we all said things we didn't mean. I leaned back in my chair, swirling my wine. Did someone at the reunion cast a memory wipe spell? Because I don't recall saying anything. I recall selling something, though. She hesitated. We're family.
Funny.
You didn't remember that when you were passing out ribs and reunion wristbands. Silence. Then she said the part I'd been waiting for. We're having trouble finding a new place. I snorted. Oh, Zillow not accepting disrespect as a down payment.
Annabel, please. Nope.
If you're calling to beg for keys, you've got the wrong number. Try 1-800 not my problem.
Troy tried next.
He texted me some long-winded rant about making things right and how Isabella only bought the house to humiliate him. To which I replied,
She did.
and she succeeded. Congrats on inspiring someone's boss era. Then, just for flavor, I Venmo'd him $5 with a caption, "For your ego's funeral?" He didn't respond. Now, at this point in our little soap opera, you might assume I was done. That I got my revenge and peace, and could ride off into my espresso-scented new life. But alas, karma had one last mic drop. See, a week after the closing, Isabella invited me to a brunch at the house, her house now. We sat under the pergola in the backyard, sipping mimosas and watching as her interior designer brought in fabric swatches. Then she turned to me and said, "So, I've decided to turn Troy's old room into a podcast studio." I blinked. You podcast?
No.
But I like the idea of recording my voice over the sound of his crushed dreams. We both laughed so hard the neighbors peeked over the fence. But it didn't end there. She stood up, pulled out a glossy folder, and handed it to me. "What's this?" I asked. "Blueprints. I'm tearing out the garage. Gonna build a wellness retreat space. I figured we'd co-host monthly healing from toxic family workshops." "You in?" My jaw dropped. "Are you serious?" "As a restraining order. And I'd like you to be the keynote speaker." Ladies and gentlemen, I had ascended. So let's recap. My family threw a reunion in my house and excluded me. I sold the house to my brother's ex, who is now living rent-free in their heads and very rent-fully in their old bedrooms. They've been blacklisted from family events more efficiently than spam email. And I've been offered a platform to roast them monthly under the banner of mental wellness. Did I plan any of this? Not exactly. Did I enjoy it? Like a 5-star Yelp review in the middle of a public meltdown. Every single
Bite.
And yet, despite the sarcasm, despite the satisfaction, I felt something else too. Relief. Because when people finally show you who they are, you don't need closure. You need distance. Preferably with a scenic view and espresso machine. That's what I gave myself. Not revenge. Not retribution.
Just a fresh damn start.
You know what happens when bitter people lose control?
They don't reflect.
They retaliate. And if you're wondering whether my mom and Troy handled their eviction with maturity and introspection, bless your optimistic little heart. Because instead of moving on with what dignity they had left, they did what petty, powerless people do. They plotted their revenge with the effectiveness of a wet napkin in a thunderstorm. Let me walk you through the disaster. It started with a mysterious Facebook post. My cousin Layla screenshot it for me like the legend she is. There, in grainy, filter-free glory, was a side-by-side photo of me and a literal snake with a caption. "Some daughters will sell their soul and your roof for $1. Snake #Family Matters. Posted by Janet M. Walker, aka my mom. Shared by Troy. Liked by 5 church ladies who still think the earth is flat and that I'm going to hell for not making deviled eggs last Easter. At first, I laughed. Then I got DMs from a few distant cousins asking if it was true that I sold the house just to hurt them. As if that was the only perk. Look, I don't mind a little digital dirt tossing. But then they crossed the line, my professional line. Someone, wonder who, decided to email my company's HR department a complaint claiming I was unstable, vindictive, and not fit to lead any client-facing role. Oh yes, they tried that route. Fortunately, I don't work for amateurs. My HR manager forwarded the email to me, complete with a subject line that read, "LOL, you've got trolls." We both laughed about it over coffee. Then I wrote a LinkedIn post about family boundaries, reclaiming personal space, and building your life around values, not validation. Guess what? It went viral. Over 200,000 views, 5 job offers in the comments, and an inbox full of women saying, "OMG, I needed this today." So not only did their smear campaign flop, it launched my personal brand. Welcome to Monetize the Meltdown. I'm your host, Annabel, and I turn trauma into trending. But wait, it gets juicier. Troy, not one to learn a lesson gracefully, doubled down. He started going on local podcasts and Facebook Lives, sobbing about how his baby sister betrayed the family and ripped their heritage out from under them. Mind you, this is the same man who once pawned our dad's watch to buy VIP concert tickets for a rapper who never showed up. On one live stream, he even tried to play the race card. "Our culture values family," he sniffled. "Annabel threw ours away for profit." I nearly choked on my LaCroix. So, I did what any true petty queen with a marketing degree and emotional receipts would do. I launched a web series. Title: Black Heart Uninvited, Stories from the Family Table. Tagline: Because some people need a reality check and a moving truck. Episode 1: How I got disowned by people who never really claimed me. Episode 2: They held a family reunion in my house, so I sold the RSVP list to a life coach. The first upload? 500,000 views in a week. You know what happens when you tell the truth first and do it with sarcasm, strategy, and a black turtleneck? People eat it up like Thanksgiving leftovers. And, oh, the sponsorships rolled in. Therapy apps, real estate services, boundaries boot camps, a moving company called Pack and Bounce. I even got an offer from a streaming service. Would you be open to turning this into a limited series? Honey, I'm open to turning it into a musical if the price is right. And through it all, my mother and brother continued their descent into public embarrassment. They couldn't understand why the world wasn't siding with them. Newsflash, people love underdogs, not entitled ones. At one point, Troy posted a TikTok where he walked dramatically through a park, voiceover whining. She didn't just sell a house. She sold her blood. The comments? Brutal. Sir, she didn't sell blood. She sold square footage and your childhood bedroom. Let it go. Plot twist. She's thriving and you're still broke. Tell me you're the family villain without telling me you're the family villain. It was delicious. But even better, people started reaching out to me, offering to share their stories. And just like that, I realized this wasn't just about my family anymore. This was a whole movement. I hired a small team, created a submission portal, and within a week, I had over 1,400 messages from people who had been written out of wills, cut from group texts, excluded from weddings, and disrespected in ways that made my story seem tame. So now I had content, an audience, and a business. All thanks to my mother's inability to respect a boundary and Troy's fantasy that he's the main character. And here's the ultimate kicker. My mom called me again. Only this time, it wasn't from her usual number. It was a burner phone. You know, like she's running some black market casserole ring. "I just want things to go back to normal," she whispered. "What's normal?" I asked. "You using me for space and acting like it's a privilege?" "No," she snapped. "You being my daughter." I laughed. "You know what's funny?" I said. "You only ever say that when you need something. When you're comfortable, I'm a ghost. When you're uncomfortable, I'm family. That's not love. That's utility. And I'm not a tool." She hung up. And for the first time, I didn't feel angry. I felt done. Because here's what I finally understood. Revenge isn't always about explosions. Sometimes, it's just letting people hear the echo of the silence you leave behind, and watching them panic when they realize they can't fill it. It was a Thursday morning. A boring, unproblematic Thursday. I had just wrapped a Zoom call about a potential TV option for Uninvited and was mid-bite into a scone when the doorman rang up. "Ms. Walker? Someone's here to see you. Says he's your dad's friend." Now that name drop hit like a piano. My father, God rest him, had been gone 4 years. Since the funeral, No one from his life had ever reached out. Mostly because my mom had been gatekeeping his memory like it was her exclusive VIP section. So who was this mystery friend? Send him up, I said, brushing crumbs off my hoodie. 30 minutes later, I'm staring at a man in his 60s. Tall, salt and pepper hair, skin weathered from years of sun and salt air, dressed like a retired Navy officer meets bookstore owner. Annabel, he said, his voice soft but steady. Name's Malcolm. I knew your dad since we were 15. Band of brothers, literally and metaphorically. I blinked. Okay, how can I help you? He placed a worn leather briefcase on the marble island and opened it like it was holding nuclear codes. Inside, a letter, sealed with red wax, and a Polaroid photo of my dad holding me as a toddler, grinning like he just stole the world. This, Malcolm said, sliding the envelope toward me, was meant for you. Your dad wrote it 6 months before he passed. He asked me to hand-deliver it when the time was right. I stared at the wax seal, hands suddenly unsteady. The time, Malcolm continued, is now. I've been watching the whole circus unfold from a distance. And your father? He knew this would happen. I broke the seal. What followed was 3 pages of messy, looping cursive. It smelled faintly like cologne and dust. And every word felt like he was whispering in my ear from another world. Asterisk Annabel. If you're reading this, I'm gone, and I know your mother and brother probably made your life hell by now. Forgive me for not stopping it sooner. I always admired your strength, your vision, your unwillingness to shrink just to make other people comfortable.
That's a rare thing.
That's your thing. Asterisk. Cue emotional damage. This house? It was always meant to be your start, not your burden. I left it to you not because I thought you'd need to fight over it, but because I knew you'd fight for yourself. And I hoped one day you'd use it to stand taller, not disappear. By the 2nd page, I was crying. Not ugly sobbing, just silent, steady leaking like a cracked faucet of repressed emotions and unresolved father-daughter trauma. Malcolm has something else for you. Something your mother didn't know about. Don't let her spin this story into one of betrayal. She'll try, but remember, your legacy was never theirs to edit. And there, tucked behind the last page, was a key. Malcolm cleared his throat. It's for a storage unit. One your dad kept on the edge of town. He left you something there. Said it would make sense when the dust settled. Do you know what it is? He shrugged. All I know is he called it the rewrite. Said you'd know what to do. My brain was spinning. I hadn't even processed the full letter, and now I was holding a key that felt like a breadcrumb in a Hansel and Gretel-style drama. Still, something in me needed to know. The next morning, I drove to the address. A dusty unit on the far side of town, sandwiched between a boatyard and an abandoned antique shop. Inside, boxes.
Dozens of them.
All labeled in my dad's handwriting. Photos. Journals.
Cassette tapes.
One box held a stack of old family videos, ones I hadn't seen in over a decade. There we were, laughing. My mom smiling before she became bitter. Troy still sweet, still protective, still human. But that wasn't the twist. The twist? A contract. Dated 3 months before his death. A trust fund. Left exclusively to me. $500,000. To be accessed only if I ever completely walked away from my mother and brother. Triggered upon full legal separation, financial, residential, and emotional. It wasn't revenge. It was insurance. He had planned it. Not because he hated them, but because he saw the writing on the wall, and he didn't want me stuck cleaning up the graffiti. I clutched the document and laughed. The kind of laugh that turns into a choke, then back into tears. And there, in the corner of the unit, I found the final gift, a whiteboard. On it, a scribbled note from him. Rewrite your story, kiddo. They only get to narrate if you stop talking. I stayed in that storage unit for 2 hours. When I left, I felt something I hadn't felt since the day I walked into that family reunion like a rejected Airbnb guest.
Clarity.
See, up until now, I thought I'd just defended myself. Told my side. Built a platform to process pain. But this was my permission slip. My dad hadn't just seen me. He'd understood me. And he'd created a failsafe to make sure I'd always land on my feet, even when my own family tried to pull the rug out. When I got home, I posted a new episode. The rewrite, when your legacy comes with a lockbox. It exploded. People cried.
DMs flooded in.
Sponsors doubled. And for the first time, I ended an episode not with sarcasm, but sincerity. If someone tells you you're too much, too bold, too sharp, look them in the eyes and say, "You're not enough for my story." Then walk away and keep writing. Because that's what I was doing now. Not reacting, not performing, not defending, just writing. 3 months had passed. 3 months since I sold the house. 3 months since Isabella turned Troy's old bedroom into a podcast studio with ironic LED signs. 3 months since I found my father's storage unit, his handwritten blessing, and the key to rewrite not just my life, but my peace. And while my social platform had exploded, my inbox was chaos, and the Uninvited merch line was selling out faster than I could restock it. Inside, I was quiet. Not empty. Not angry. Just still. Still enough to finally hear myself think without editing around the noise of their expectations. So when the invitation arrived, yes, an actual invitation, I almost thought it was a prank. It came in the mail, cream-colored envelope, embossed lettering. You are invited to the Walker-Jameson family reconciliation brunch. Saturday, 11 a.m. Location, the Windermere Community Center. At the bottom, in handwriting I'd recognize anywhere. Please come. I miss you.
Mom.
Well, well, well. Look who discovered remorse and Microsoft Publisher. At first, I wanted to shred it, or maybe frame it as Exhibit A in a case called Too Little, Too Late. But I didn't. Because something in me, maybe the part Dad planted, was curious. Not hopeful. Just curious. So I went.
I didn't RSVP.
I didn't text a heads up. I just showed up. Because if anyone was going to make a grand entrance at another family event, it was going to be the woman who sold the venue of the last one. The Windermere Center was a beige brick building that smelled like old macaroni and broken promises. Inside, foldable tables, catered food, plastic flowers, the usual. I walked in wearing black. Not because I was mourning, because I wanted to look like an executive at the funeral of my past. The room hushed. Forks froze. Aunt Beatrice blinked at me like she'd seen a ghost in lip gloss. Then Mom stood up. She looked older, smaller. Not physically, but energetically. As if 3 months of silence had finally echoed back loud enough to shrink her pride. "Annabel," she said, voice shaky. "You came. Figured I'd try the quiche. If nothing else, I can rate the trauma on Yelp." A few uncomfortable chuckles. Even Troy half smiled. We sat. The first 10 minutes were polite small talk and awkward sips of orange juice. Then my mother cleared her throat. "I wanted this because I owe you an apology."
Oh?
"I didn't just hurt you by excluding you. I erased you. I justified it by telling myself you were too busy, too distant, too successful to care. But the truth is, I didn't want to feel like I relied on you. I didn't want to admit that after your father died, you became the strongest one in the family. And I hated that."
Dead.
Silence. Then she added, "You remind me too much of him. And I didn't know how to handle that." I stared at her, absorbing that last sentence like it was sun after a nuclear winter. Troy spoke next. "I was jealous. Always have been. You were smarter, sharper, and somehow got everything I thought I deserved. I told myself I was the glue in the family, but really, I was the dead weight." My mouth twitched. "Well," I said, "you did serve ribs on my hardwood floor. So you've always had some presence." Laughter. Nervous, scattered, but real. Then silence again. And everyone looked at me, waiting. I took a breath. "You want forgiveness?" They nodded. "Well, here's the thing. I'm not Jesus. I don't hand out absolution like Tic Tacs. Forgiveness isn't a sermon, it's a boundary. And mine is this. I'm not angry anymore. But I also don't trust you. And that's okay. We don't have to go backward. We just need to stop pretending backward ever worked." More silence. Then, so what does that mean? It means I'm not cutting you off. But I'm not cutting myself down either. You'll get invites to events I actually host. You'll get updates on a schedule I decide. You'll be in my life, but not at the wheel.
Got it.
They nodded.
Slowly.
Like toddlers processing the rules of a playground they'd been kicked out of. And then I stood up, kissed my mother on the cheek, and handed Troy a small box. Inside, a tiny plaque that read, "You can't sabotage what you didn't build. Put that on your desk," I said. "If you ever get one." Then I walked out. Outside, the wind was soft. The sky, gentle blue. And for the first time, I didn't feel heavy, or vindicated, or even victorious. I just felt right. 2 days later, I uploaded the final episode of Season 1 of Uninvited. Closure isn't always clean, but it's yours. Sometimes, we think revenge means burning it all down. But real power? That's letting them live in the smoke while you build elsewhere. I don't hate my family. I just stopped living in the version of me they invented. And you should too. Rewrite the narrative. Retitle the chapters. Recast the villains. And above all, reclaim the author's pen. You're not uninvited anymore. You're just the one throwing the next party. I signed off, logged out, and smiled. Because the truth is, they did leave me out. And I turned that exclusion into an empire. That's not revenge. That's royalty.